All right, let's jump right in. We're going way, way back in time. I'm talking before the dinosaurs even showed up, to meet an insect that was, without a doubt, one of the most incredible rulers of the ancient skies.
You see a dragonfly zip by your head. Maybe your cat tries to chase it, and you think, relax, kitty, it's just a little dragonfly, right? They might look a little alien-like, sure, but they're basically harmless.
But what if that dragonfly wasn't so tiny? What if its ancient cousins came back to life? I'm talking about insects almost half-meter long. A creature so big it would literally cast a shadow as it flew over you. Yeah, that's what we're getting into today.
So, let's set the stage. We're talking about a time long before birds, way before pterodactyls, even before the first dinosaurs. The sky belonged to an insect. And this wasn't just any insect, it was the apex predator of its time, the Permian period.
To really get a feel for how long ago this was, we're talking about 290 million years ago. North America wasn't where it is today. And for millions upon millions of years, these griffin flies were the kings. Until a massive event came along and wiped the slate clean. So, you're probably wondering, just how big are we talking? Well, hold on to your hats. Its wingspan, a staggering 75 centimeters. That's almost a meter wide. To put that in perspective, think about a big dinner plate. Now imagine one of those as each wing. The body itself was nearly half a meter long. We're talking bigger than a lot of birds you see today. This thing was a monster, a true giant of the skies. And it was built to be a top predator. It had this incredible toolkit for hunting. Huge compound eyes that could spot the tiniest movement, spiny front legs perfect for grabbing things right out of the air, and these toothed jaws for just tearing its prey apart. And get this, even its babies, the little nymphs living underwater, were ambush predators, hunting fish. Okay, so the big question, right? How on earth does an insect get that massive? The answer is pretty amazing. It wasn't just about its genes, it was literally in the air it was breathing. Just take a look at this. Back in the Permian, the air was packed with oxygen. We're talking like 35%. That's all thanks to these huge, sprawling swamp forests that covered the planet. Now compare that to today, where we're sitting at about 21%. That extra oxygen was like high-octane rocket fuel for life. See, here's the cool part. Insects don't have lungs like you and me. They have this network of tiny tubes called trachea that pipe oxygen directly to their muscles and cells. So in a world flooded with 35% oxygen, that system becomes super efficient. It allowed them to power these enormous bodies and just grow to absolutely unbelievable sizes. But you know how these stories go. This high-oxygen paradise, it wasn't going to last. And for these giants, the end was coming, and it was going to be sudden and absolutely catastrophic. It has a name that says it all, the Great Dying. And look, we all know about the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, right? This was so much worse. It was the single largest extinction event in the history of our planet. It literally wiped out most of life on Earth and completely reset the course of evolution. So what caused it? Think massive, world-covering volcanic eruptions that just pumped the atmosphere full of toxic gases, triggering runaway climate change. And here's the crucial part for our giant friends, the oxygen levels. They plummeted. And this is the real tragedy of the story. The very thing that made them giants, that super oxygenated air, was gone. Suddenly, their huge bodies couldn't get enough fuel. Their greatest advantage, the thing that made them kings, became their fatal weakness. They just couldn't survive. Okay, but let's play a little what-if game. What if they hadn't died out? What if, somehow, these giant griffin flies made it all the way to today? What would our world even look like? Seriously, just imagine this for a second. You're out in your backyard, maybe having a barbecue, and this huge shadow just glides over you. You look up, and it's an insect. An insect with a wingspan as wide as your outstretched arms. You wouldn't hear a little buzz, no way. It would be this deep, whirring, almost mechanical sound. Chilling, right? I mean, think of the ecological impact. They'd be hunting frogs, fish, maybe even snatching small birds right out of the sky. But it wouldn't be easy for them either. They'd suddenly have to compete with modern predators like bats. Still, there's a silver lining. Imagine these things hunting mosquitoes. They could be the best pest control on the planet. So yeah, The difference is just night and day. Back then, they were the undisputed kings, no competition, and a world flooded with 35% oxygen. Now, they'd have to fight birds and bats for every meal. They might even be the meal, and they'd have to do it all on our modern 21% oxygen supply. A much tougher gig, for sure.
And I think that's the real takeaway from the story of Meganeuropsis. It's a pretty powerful reminder, isn't it? It doesn't matter how big or strong or dominant you are, if you can't adapt when the world changes around you, you just become a part of history.
Oh, and here's a cool little piece of trivia for you. We keep calling them giant dragonflies, but technically they weren't. They were part of their own special extinct group called Meganeuropsis. But honestly, their nickname is way cooler. People call them Griffin Flies. How awesome is that? It's just wild to think about these things actually existing, ruling the skies. And it kind of makes you wonder, right? If you could bring back just one creature from the past, which one do you think would totally change our world the most? Something to think about.